Welcome back to Hunting Down the Truth. I'm Hunter Lovell. Special Counsel Robert Mueller completed a nearly 2-year investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election and found that there was no collusion between President Donald Trump's campaign and the Russian government to influence the election. Mueller, quote, ultimately determined not to make a traditional prosecutorial judgment on obstruction of justice. A 4-page letter summarizing Mueller's findings was distributed to Congress on Sunday, when there is expected to be a fight for the full Mueller report to be released. Now, joining me on today's show is former Dean of the LSU Manship School of Mass Communication, Jerry Ceppos. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Now, Jerry, as we've discussed in class, Trump's expected to take a victory lap of sorts in the coming weeks to hammer the media for negative coverage that he received the past 2 years from the Mueller probe. And he's likely to place the media in a dishonest light. Do you think we'll see a change now in the type of reporting on high-profile scandals following the Mueller investigation?
I think in one way, for sure. I think there's such hypersensitivity about everything that the media does that there will probably be even more care taken in areas like choice of words and things like that. And in that small way, I think that all the complaining and the polarization probably has been good because it'll make the media even more careful. Everything else about the polarization is probably bad.
Mm-hmm. Now, the editors of the Washington Post and New York Times have largely defended their reporters' stories over the past 2 years throughout the Mueller investigation. And in fact, the Times executive editor, Dean Baquet, told his reporters that, quote, it's not our job to determine whether or not there was illegality, and so that he had no regrets for their coverage. And I know you've paid particular attention to the type of coverage that this investigation has seen over the past 2 years. And do you believe that it was accurate? And do you believe, who do you believe, if anyone, should have any blame for this collusion narrative?
Well, I think to an amazing degree, it's such a complex story. It's so difficult to do. And to an amazing degree, it was accurate. And I actually can't think of one major issue that was wrong. I may be forgetting something, but I think it was amazingly accurate. And part of the problem is that the public doesn't understand, because we haven't told them, how journalism works. And my example that I always use with non-journalists is, if you and I go out to the scene of a car crash, it's very possible we're going to report it differently. You're at a different angle. You may have talked to different police officers than I did. We're all humans, is the idea. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's come across. If the public expects perfection, they're not going to get it. Mm-hmm. But it was pretty close in this case.
Yes. And now, many right-wing journalists have taken their turn to scold the left-wing outlets for the coverage that they received. But even still, even on the left, some notable liberal reporters, including The Intercept's Glenn Greenwald, has long been skeptical of the collusion narrative, and he's called for major accountability within the media. Now, what do you think of that?
I was surprised that Glenn Greenwald was one of the critics, because he's really a crusading journalist. So maybe we should listen more carefully to him. My feeling is that collusion clearly was one of the two issues that was being looked at. Mm-hmm. I worry a little tiny bit about speculation and assumptions. It is so easy when everybody around you in Washington is saying, here's what it's going to say, mm-hmm. that I worry just a little bit about speculation. You know, there was crazy, wild speculation about when the report was going to come out. And one former CIA director said it wasn't going to come out on the 15th, which I believe is the day it did, because that's the Ides of March, and they wouldn't want it out. What?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from?
Right.
So a little bit of editing here and there would help, but by and large, I was very impressed by the coverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now we'll just see if the full report will come out on its own in the coming days and weeks. That'll be up to the Attorney General William Barr to make that determination. But we've just about run out of time on the show today. Thank you so much for joining me to talk about the Mueller report. And so whenever we come back, we have breaking news on an update on the arrest of an LSU football player, and we'll be right back.